Welcome to my channel. I never thought a single bet could ruin my life, or at least, the life I thought I had. It started on a boring Friday afternoon, sitting in the school cafeteria. My friends were teasing each other, joking about dares, pranks, and the usual teenage chaos. And then, she appeared. Samantha, the head cheerleader. Confident, gorgeous, untouchable. She leaned over the table, her eyes glinting mischievously. "Hey," she said, voice silky, "I bet you wouldn't survive a week as one of us. Fully. Uniform, makeup, routines, the whole thing." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, right. That's impossible. I'm not a cheerleader." "Oh, come on," she purred. "Are you scared?" I tried to play it cool, but my chest tightened. There was a spark in her eyes, one that dared me to fail. My friends egged me on, whispering, laughing, and suddenly, before I could think, I said it. "Fine. I'll do it. But you won't make me look ridiculous." Her smile was a knife. Sharp, victorious. "Oh, I'll make sure of it," she said. And that's when everything went wrong. The next morning, I was summoned to the gym. There it was, the uniform, perfectly sized, hanging like a trap. Short skirt, tight top, pristine sneakers. I froze. My reflection in the locker room mirror made my stomach twist. My body already seemed different somehow, softer, lighter, smaller. I laughed nervously, but it came out higher pitched than I expected. "First rule," Samantha said, circling me like a predator, "you look the part. Confidence comes later." By the time I walked onto the practice floor, my masculinity felt like it had been peeled away in layers. Every cheer, every jump, every tight uniform made me hyper-aware of my body, my voice, my awkwardness. I stumbled, tripped, and nearly fell more than once. The team laughed, not cruelly, but enough to make my face burn. My friends watched, smirking. And Samantha? She was reveling in it. "Don't worry," she whispered later, leaning close. "You'll love this." Love it? I wanted to scream. The first morning in the cheer squad uniform was worse than I could have imagined. The skirt hugged my hips uncomfortably, the tight top clung to my chest in ways that made me acutely aware of every curve I never had before. Even the sneakers felt different. Lighter, smaller, forcing me to adjust my stance. Every step to the gym felt like walking on stage, and every reflection in the mirrors lining the hallways reminded me that this body I had to inhabit wasn't mine. My voice cracked when I called out greetings, making the girls giggle softly. Practice was a nightmare. Every jump, every chant, every complicated routine reminded me that I was completely out of my element. My muscles weren't trained for cheer stunts, my balance was off, my hips swayed awkwardly, making every motion a spectacle. The girls whispered among themselves. Samantha smirked, clearly enjoying every misstep. "Remember confidence," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Act like you belong." I nodded, trying to fake it, but inside I was panicking. My friends watched from the bleachers, whispering and laughing. One even took a video. I felt exposed, humiliated, and completely trapped in this body that seemed to betray me at every turn. Walking through school after practice was no relief. Everyone stared, whispered, and pointed. I could feel their eyes on my chest, my legs, my every movement. Even my own reflection in the window made me cringe. The tight skirt, the soft top, the heels they insisted I wear for full effect. It all screamed vulnerability. Lunch was even worse. Sitting with the cheer squad, I had to laugh, smile, and perform. Every joke they made at my expense, or mine at theirs, felt amplified by the humiliation I carried in my body. My voice, too high and light, gave away my discomfort. Each bite of food made me self-conscious. Every glance from the guys in my class felt like judgment. By the end of the week, exhaustion and embarrassment were constant. Yet, somewhere in the midst of it, I began noticing small, strange things. My balance improved. My posture began to mimic theirs naturally. My voice didn't crack as much. Even when I tripped or fumbled, I felt a flicker of control I hadn't anticipated. Late at night, in the solitude of my room, I stared at my reflection. The cheerleader uniform no longer just humiliated me, it highlighted new shapes, new movements, new possibilities. I began experimenting quietly, adjusting my skirt, practicing chants, standing tall in heels. Alone, I could explore, practice, even feel a strange thrill in mastering this alien body. And beneath the embarrassment, a dangerous thought began to form. Maybe I can actually survive this. Maybe I can even like it. By the end of the first week, exhaustion and embarrassment had become my constant companions. But late at night, when the house was silent and the world outside didn't exist, I discovered something strange: freedom. Alone in my room, I stared at the reflection in the mirror. The cheerleader uniform I had worn all day now felt like armor and prison at the same time. I slowly unzipped the top, letting it slip off my shoulders, and studied the body I had been forced to inhabit. Curves, softness, a feminine sway in my posture. It all felt alien and terrifying. Then came the makeup. Samantha had insisted I look the part, so she had given me a starter kit. Lip gloss, mascara, blush, and eyeshadow stared back at me from the desk. My hands trembled as I picked up a brush. The first swipe of blush made my cheeks glow unnaturally, but I couldn't stop staring. It changed my face in subtle, hypnotic ways. Mascara followed. My lashes lengthened, framing my eyes in a way I had never imagined. I blinked slowly at my reflection, feeling a thrill I couldn't explain. Lips, eyes, cheeks, it all transformed me. And somehow, in this private experiment, I began to like it. Next, I experimented with posture and movement. Heels clicked against the floor as I practiced walking, hips swaying deliberately, shoulders back, head high. Each step was both a challenge and a revelation. The more I moved, the more I realized I was learning to control this new body. To master it. Cheer routines became practice sessions of empowerment. Alone, I practiced jumps, stunts, and chants, slowly improving. Movements that had been impossible in front of the squad now became fluid, confident, and exhilarating. I couldn't deny the thrill, the power of inhabiting a body that others might admire, the control of mastering something so foreign. Even my voice changed in these private experiments. I whispered chants, practiced calls, and adjusted my pitch. By the end of the night, it was smoother, lighter, and more natural. Alone, I could explore every aspect of this transformation without judgment or ridicule. And somewhere in the midst of this experimentation, a dangerous thought crept in. Maybe I don't just survive this bet. Maybe I can actually enjoy it. Fear mingled with curiosity. Embarrassment mingled with exhilaration. Every movement, every glance in the mirror, every tiny victory created a strange cocktail of emotions I had never felt before. By the time I crawled into bed, exhausted but buzzing, I realized something undeniable: I had changed. Not just in body, but in spirit. The bet that was meant to humiliate me had begun to teach me something about resilience, confidence, and control. And deep down, a part of me wondered, what if this is only the beginning? The morning of the big cheer event arrived faster than I expected. My heart pounded as I slipped into the uniform, perfectly fitted, skirt swaying, top hugging curves I had never known. Makeup was flawless, hair cascading down my shoulders. I stared at the reflection in the mirror, unsure if I was terrified or exhilarated, or both. The bus ride to the gym was a mix of panic and anticipation. Whispers followed me, stares lingered, and every glance in reflective surfaces reminded me of the body I now inhabited. My voice, once shaky, was steadier, practiced from nights of private rehearsals. Stepping into the gym, I saw the squad already warming up. Samantha's eyes met mine with a gleam of triumph, but this time, I held my ground. Confidence, the thing I had feared I'd never feel, now coursed through me. "Ready to see if you survive?" she asked, smirk in place. I nodded. Not just to survive, but to show that I could master this challenge. Practice began. Every cheer, jump, and stunt demanded precision. Every glance from the girls tested me. The whispers from classmates outside the gym buzzed like electricity. And yet, I moved confidently, each step and motion refined by my nights of secret practice. By the end of the session, something remarkable happened. The squad, initially amused and skeptical, began nodding in approval. My movements were natural, my posture confident, my voice clear. Samantha's smirk faded slightly, replaced by reluctant respect. Lunch afterward was still crowded, full of stares and whispers, but something had changed. I held my head high, shoulders back, moving through the cafeteria with a poise I never imagined. Comments that would have mortified me before now barely registered. I had claimed ownership of the situation, turning humiliation into power. The final confrontation came after school. Samantha approached, curiosity and admiration in her eyes. You actually did it," she said. "I didn't think you could survive this bet." I smiled, a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "Not just survive," I said softly, voice calm and confident. "I mastered it. And you know what? I've learned more about myself than I ever expected." Her expression softened. For the first time she looked at me, not as a joke, not as a bet, but as someone who had grown, endured, and transformed. That night, alone in my room, I removed the uniform, makeup, and carefully practiced movements. I stared at my reflection and whispered to myself, I survived. I grew. I conquered embarrassment, fear, and doubt. And I discovered a strength I didn't know I had. The cheerleader bet that had been designed to ruin me had done the opposite. It had pushed me to my limits, forced me to confront vulnerability, and ultimately empowered me. I wasn't the same person I had been before the bet. I was stronger, more confident, and aware of my resilience. And the reflection staring back at me wasn't just a cheerleader. It was me, triumphant, unafraid, and unshakable.